In this race, you've probably seen ad after ad after ad. Not one of those ads was brought to you by the Congresswoman's campaign. All of them brought to you by corporate PACs and APAC, trying to buy a politician who's going to do their bidding instead of yours. Big AI has huge super PACs that guess who they're funding, not me, the other person on this stage. Chuck Schumer desperately wants one of us to be the next senator, and it's not me. So if you want your politics dictated you by APAC or Chuck Schumer, then I'm not your guy. If Congresswoman Stevens makes it, or Mike Rogers wins, either way, Israel will win. AIPAC is perfectly fine with either of my two opponents because they know that they will have a comfortable, reliable vote in the U.S. Senate. $40 million of spending in this race. $40 million. I want you to think about what that means. That's money that buys something on the back end. So if you elect the person who took that money, don't be surprised when they betray you. Government will continue to work for the people who buy off government so long as we allow people to buy off government. It is that simple. And you're seeing a case in point of that.
What you're going to watch is a debate masterclass put on by the most feared Democrat by the establishment right now. If they see Mamdani as a bad dream, this guy, Abdul El-Sayed, is their official nightmare. And after you see how he broke down the establishment stooge Haley Stevens, who took $40 million in AIPAC money, you would know exactly why he is so feared by them. So without further ado, let's start with the most controversial topic right now, which is the war in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, Abdul El-Sayed.
Can we stop the lies, and can we get the transparency out that my opponents long talked about?
I'd love to stop the lies that are being told on TV by organizations like the Center for Democratic Priorities, which, by the way, didn't exist until it started to run ads for my opponent. Like the United Democratic Progressives, which, by the way, is a front for AIPAC. Like Center Forward, which bought airline tickets for my opponent, for her mother and herself to go to Portugal. I don't know what they talked about. I don't know what they did. So if we want to talk about lies, I think it's really important for us to understand who's paying for them and what was said on the back end to allow them to be told. Because $40 million, it doesn't come for free.
If you want a fighter and an effective leader for our state, that's me.
Dr. El-Sayed,
we also don't need politicians bought off by corporations. In this race, you've probably seen ad after ad after ad. Not one of those ads was brought to you by the Congresswoman's campaign. All of them brought to you by corporate PACs and APAC, trying to buy a politician who's going to do their bidding instead of yours. That's been the story of our politics for far too long. The question is not whether or not you're a millionaire. The question is whether or not you are bowing down to billionaires. And for too long in our politics, we've watched politicians beg for those dollars only to do that bidding when they actually get to office. That has been the story of my opponent. If you want politics is different, I'm the only one who's never taken a dime from a corporation.
Abdul, I would say no one is afraid of you. And in fact, the GOP is spending thousands of dollars to prop up your campaign because they think they will make it easier for Mike Rogers to win if you are the nominee. I do not plan to make anything easier for Republicans or Mike Rogers. What I do is I take on tough fights for Michigan, tough races, and I win for us.
30 seconds to wrap up this question.
Well, you know, if Congresswoman Stevens makes it or Mike Rogers wins, either way, Israel will win. AIPAC is perfectly fine with either of my two opponents because they know that they will have a comfortable, reliable vote in the U.S. Senate. If you want politics to work for you, if you want politics to rebuild your schools or fix your infrastructure or to invest in your health care, you have an alternative choice. We're running to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket and pass Medicare for all. There's a reason that both Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump don't want to see me on the inside of the U.S. Senate because I'm a threat to politics as usual.
Look, I am unafraid, Michigan. You are my North Star, and no illegal wars, no unilateral wars at our expense.
60 seconds.
I think it's worth asking why we got into this war in the first place. There is one man who's been wanting this war fought, and that is the Prime Minister of Israel. And the reason that we've seen this war fought is because the impact of AIPAC in our politics. AIPAC has spent tens of millions of dollars in attack ads against me or ads lying about the Congresswoman's record. They clearly want one individual, and it's not me. And ask yourself why it is that we are paying $5 gas, why it is we can't seem to get out of this quagmire. It's because for too long, our foreign policy has been handed to us by the likes of the State of Israel and AIPAC, who has made sure that Democrats and Republicans are doing their bidding. I don't take that money. They are spending against me because they've called me the most dangerous candidate for the U.S.-Israel relationship because maybe I don't want to waste our money fighting wars we don't need to spend, and instead I want that spent here to rebuild our schools here, to make sure we have functional infrastructure here in Michigan, to make sure that we have healthcare here in Michigan. And so long as our politicians continue to be bought off by AIPAC, do not be surprised when we fight wars that are in their best interest, to annex Lebanon, or to do genocide in Gaza. For a long time, every president has said that they believe in a two-state solution. The problem, of course, is that Our policy has been to subsidize the Israeli military to the tune of billions of your tax dollars every single year. And their goal is to foreclose on the possibility of a Palestinian state. I believe in international law. I believe we have to hold every country to international law, which means to me that we need to stop funding the Israeli military in unilateral blank checks. That also includes Egypt, that includes Saudi Arabia. I also believe that we cannot continue to sell weapons to a country that is doing human rights abuses, genocide, and apartheid. I also believe that we need to stop running cover for what has become a rogue state that is now trying to annex southern Lebanon. And I also believe that your money needs to be spent here. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate losers are you and me, the taxpayers who paid that money to provide good infrastructure, build schools, provide health care for our own kids, not to watch it get sent to buy bombs and tanks that end up annihilating other people and their children. Look, I believe in equal rights to peace, dignity, and self-determination for Palestinians and Jewish Israelis alike. But the question I think the Congresswoman needs to answer is, why has she allowed $40 million of outside spending, the bulk of it coming from AIPAC, to come into this race? I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu is attacking her to actually attack her. I think he's attacking her to try and steer away the stink of how staunchly she stands for their policy. So let's take that opportunity. Explain what you've given away for AIPAC support in this race.
30 seconds to wrap up.
No one owns my vote and no one owns my policies. Anyone who is contributing to my Senate campaign is doing so because of my proven record of fighting for Michigan.
El-Sayed provides the necessary honesty on foreign military spending. The United States provides $3.8 billion in military aid to Israel every year, a country that provides health care for all of its citizens, unlike the U.S. El-Sayed argues that sending billions in weapon systems to foreign nations directly contradicts domestic needs and violates moral and international law by financing an apartheid state. He argues that taxpayer money belongs in Michigan schools and infrastructure, which is an easy statement to stand behind, while Stevens claims that she is independent, yet she refuses to address the $40 million in outside lobby spending flooding the election. And considering that the money is coming especially from Israel and its front organizations like AIPAC, Stevens does not have any leg to stand on when she's criticizing Trump wars while taking money from the same people that helped and pushed them into those wars. By connecting foreign intervention directly to domestic neglect, El-Sayed shows that you cannot fix Michigan roads while funding foreign conflicts. And Stevens naturally loses on this essential point.
Look, if you want somebody who's electable, the last 3 polls in a row show that I'm the most electable Democrat in November. Why? Because you got to actually fight for something. It's not enough to offer people 2 options that kind of look the same on the issues that matter the most. If you're taking money from corporations, the same corporations, Democrat or Republican, how different are things really going to be? I'm offering an opportunity to actually invest in what we want to fight for healthcare that is guaranteed, for an economy that works for working people, for finally getting corporate money out of our politics. I'm proud to have been endorsed by the UAW. And the reason that they've endorsed me is because they understand that I am a fighter for working people. I can tell you that there is bipartisan support already to blow up the USMCA, which has been a cancer on our manufacturing industry in Michigan and the industrial Midwest in general. That is a bill, of course, that my colleague actually voted for. And I think there's bipartisan consensus that that has been a danger. We have an opportunity to rethink trade policy to make sure that we're protecting good union jobs in this state and in this country. And I think that means rethinking how we do tariffs. Now, Donald Trump's version of tariffs is like chemotherapy, but you give the patient all the chemo at the same time. I think there's an opportunity where you pace it out. You think critically about how you protect critical budding manufacturing industry, and that you are transparent with your trading partners about how you do this in an effort to build long-term sustainable manufacturing jobs. I've heard a lot from Republicans saying that they want to bring manufacturing jobs back. Let's roll up our sleeves, work together to get that done. I'll pursue my own path of leadership, educated by the countless days that I spent talking to Michiganders across 110 cities, 450 public events. Now, here's the thing about it. There is no left or right. Most people out there aren't asking, where do I fit on the left-right spectrum? They're asking, can I afford my groceries when I go grocery shopping? What's going to happen if I get sick or my kid gets sick? Why does my kid's school look the same way it did 30 years ago when I went there? And the answer to that question is that for too long, politicians on both sides of the aisle have taken the same corporate corrupting money. I'm the only candidate on this stage, frankly, the only candidate running for U.S. Senate, who's never taken a dime of that money, which is why the real issue is about the people locking you out of your politics versus the people being locked out. And I will stand always on the side of the folks who are locked out. That is a pathway in our politics that I think all of us can get behind. It's not red, it's not blue, It's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's American. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is where our politics needs to go. And in the next 250 years, when we get to chart where we go from here, I hope we remember that that's what we need.
The question was about the direction of the party. Is it shifting?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Seconds.
It won't shift if we continue to elect leaders who take money from the same corporations who have broken with the interests of the American public. Chuck Schumer desperately wants one of us to be the next senator, and it's not me. So if you want your politics dictated you by AIPAC or Chuck Schumer, then I'm not your guy. I think we need to go back to the idea of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. $40 million of spending in this race. $40 million. I want you to think about what that means. That's money that buys something on the back end. So if you elect the person who took that money, don't be surprised when they betray you. I never intended to run for office. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor because I could go 15 hours to my family's native Egypt or 15 minutes from where I grew up. I went to medical school only to realize that our healthcare system was, in fact, part of the problem, not part of the solution. I went into public health. We eliminated medical debt. Yes, we eliminated medical debt. We put glasses on kids' faces. We took on corporate polluters. We provided free health insurance. We did the things that for too long government fails to do under leadership that is bought off by corporations. I'm running to do three things: get money out of politics, put money in your pocket past Medicare for all. I'm not doing this because of some direction of a party. I'm doing this because of the Michiganders that I've gotten to see. A woman who had cancer 3 times and happened to managed to hold on to her life savings until the 3rd one. A woman who lost her entire life savings because her kid got cancer and died. People who have come and shared their burden with us. If we continue to allow corporations to buy our politicians, do not be surprised when everything gets more expensive and your job gets further out of reach. That is the politics that is corrupting now, and we need different.
I've been busy doing the work for Michiganders. Period, full stop. Power Outage Relief Act. We're still dealing with that. Small businesses losing their revenues. We got to do supply chain security. I've got a bill for that. I am ready to go for us, Michigan, on day one.
30 seconds to wrap.
Let's talk about power outages. People sleeping in dark rooms without electricity for the 4th straight day. My opponent's taking $37,500 from DTE. Ask yourself what that buys. Our politics have been deeply and profoundly corrupted by corporate money, and I want to get money out. You want to talk about transparency? There's a group called Center Forward that happened to pay for a flight for the Congresswoman and her mother to Portugal. I want to understand what she promised them in return. You want to talk about transparency? Why are there $40 million flowing into our politics right now in support of my opponent?
Yeah. Well, and again, I have the receipts and I have the bill to stand up to the utility
Explain
companies
them.
at the lower rates.
Explain the receipts.
So, yes, I've got the
You're not
I've got the
explaining them.
multiple.
El-Sayed wins this point by addressing the single largest source of personal bankruptcy in America. Private healthcare debt causes massive financial ruin. Peer-reviewed studies from the Political Economy Research Institute show that Medicare for All saves the United States over $450 billion annually. It reduces administrative overhead, while Stevens ignores the obvious problem for obvious reasons and focuses on her grocery tariff bill. This minor bill fails to solve the overarching crisis of rising costs. El-Sayed targets the root cause. He connects inflation directly to corporate monopolies and campaign contributions, while Stevens protects the status quo by ignoring the role corporate donors play in keeping prices high because she can't bite the hand that feeds her. El-Sayed picks up on this and deals the last blow by exposing her corruption on the last major points of the debate, which are Trump policies, ICE, and AI data centers.
So I just want to be clear. I went to Minneapolis at the height of Project Metro Surge. I watched as our government laid siege to a city in our own country. It was awful to see. ICE is not about immigration. ICE is not about the southern border. I was on nearly the northern border. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets. I've been clear that you can't reform ICE. You can't retrain ICE. You have to abolish ICE. Now, that's not to say that we can't secure our border. That's not even to say that we can't actually enforce our immigration policy. That is to say that we shouldn't do it at the edge of destroying our Constitution itself. ICE is a new agency. It is younger than I am. We have done this in the past in a way that respects the basic rule of law. And if we're serious about actually having a pathway in this country to a humane, thoughtful, common sense immigration system, we've got to invest in the court infrastructure that offers a pathway to citizenship for people who've built a life here, that lived here peaceably, and contributed to our society. I think that's the responsibility we need to go to while keeping our southern border safe and secure.
that Donald Trump's ICE is completely out of control and it is an abuse of power. ICE agents from top to bottom that have committed crimes have to be held accountable.
Look, I appreciate the change of tone on ICE. I mean, my colleague voted to thank ICE and increase their budget, and also took money from people who run ICE contracts. That to me seems very different than what we're hearing now. I've been deeply clear. I don't take money from corporations. I don't take money from ICE contractors, which is why I can say with a clear voice, we need to abolish ICE. I think we need clarity about where folks' money comes from and what trades they make on the policy on the back end to bob and weave on these issues when these are issues of life and death. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and the child care for our youngest, who's 3 years old, is one of the most expensive items on our entire budget. It is insane how much people have to pay. And for a lot of folks, this has become a gender justice issue. It's forcing people out of the workforce, predominantly women, and it's holding them behind from lucrative opportunities that they can use to advance their family in the first place. I think we need to make childcare free. 100% free. Now, how do we pay for that? We pay for that by taxing billionaires their wealth. We could render $4.6 trillion if we were willing to put, let's say, an 8% tax on billionaire wealth. This is not that difficult, but it's a function of our values. Do we care enough to make sure that women have access to the workplace, that children have a safe, healthy place to go, or would we rather be the kind of economy that allows billionaires to make a second billion, a third billion, a trillion, maybe like Elon Musk? That is the question we need to answer. And ultimately, so long as we allow billionaires and corporations to buy politicians, we're going to get the wrong answer. Look, right now, people are scared to death that there's going to be this gigantic data center put in their backyard so people like Mike Rogers can make gender-affirming videos about how buff they really are. I think we have to be serious about the fact that these pose real dangers, and the people who are pushing them are the richest, most powerful corporate CEOs in the history of our economy. And so we've put forward a terms of engagement. We want to make sure that if you want to put a data center anywhere, that it's going to meet the following terms: all union labor, no raising our utility rates, increasing our utility reliability, not touching our water, and then there has to be a community benefits agreement that's negotiated in good faith with all the money put up in escrow, and this has to be fully enforceable, including shutting down the data center. That has to be passed at the federal level. Now, here's the thing. Big AI has huge super PACs that guess who they're funding, not me, the other person on this stage. And so the question for us is, are we willing to actually do what it takes to protect people from these risks? Or are we going to let them roll us, just like corporations continue to roll our politicians over and over again?
Yet again, my opponent takes jabs, except for he won't denounce the GOP when they are funding his operation and his candidacy, and now bragging about the false polls that they're putting out that he's going to be the best one to beat Mike Rogers. That's me.
30 seconds.
I'm sure everybody out there thinks that Republicans really want me to win this race. Sure. The real question is, how much money has the AI industry spent in this race? And why are they spending it? And whose vote are they buying? And what does that mean for you? If you want a future where AI is fully unregulated, where we lose, what, 50% of our jobs, where a data center sits in your backyard, you have a choice. If you want someone who's going to stand up for the people against the corporations, you also have a choice. Notice, none of the answers actually speak to any of the points I'm making about the money that is being spent in these races to corrupt our politics. I also want to speak to the fact that we do need to regulate AI, and so long as we are taking money, the party is taking money from the AI industry, it's not likely to happen. I proposed a plan putting AI under democracy. What does that mean? That means that I want to make sure that legacy internet companies no longer own the means of creating AI. The AI corporations are spun off as public interest corporations, and that at least 50% of their boards are publicly appointed, meaning through the democratic process. I also want real clear guardrails on what AI can and can't do. I want an agency in the government like an FDA for AIs. And I want to make sure that we pass our terms of agreement. I can say all this because I'm not bought off by the AI companies. You talked about that 2020 regulation. That was a giveaway to the AI industry. So yes, if you want someone who's really effective at giving giveaways to the AI industry, you have your option in this race. I want to speak to the fact that right now we have a choice. $40 million. We're being outspent 30-1 in this race, 30-1. That money is coming in from AIPAC. Their goal is to make sure that our money is sent abroad to kill other people rather than kept here to invest here. Now, the question you might be asking is, what does it have to do with a question about AI? Government will continue to work for the people who buy off government so long as we allow people to buy off government. It is that simple. And you're seeing a case in point of that. As everyday Michiganders know, that a budget sheet is about money in and money out. And for a long time, folks on the conservative side want to tell us that it's all about money out. We're spending too much. But then they do two things. They cut taxes for the richest people in society, and then they cut things like healthcare. And guess what happens? They fight wars that we don't need to fight. So money out goes up, money in goes down, and we run up the national debt. And then Democrats show up, and we're trying to be effective stewards of the national debt. So here's what we need to do. We need to run the play in reverse. How about we end stupid wars we shouldn't be fighting at the behest of foreign governments? How about we start taxing billionaires their wealth so that we can return trillions of dollars to the economy? And how about we invest our money in the things that people actually need, like good education, childcare, good hospitals, and healthcare? Those are the opportunities we have in front of us, so long as we don't allow the same corporations and billionaires to buy our politicians so that they keep doing these ridiculous things. Look, I just want to be clear. I endorsed Vice President Harris. I campaigned for Vice President Harris. I really wanted Vice President Harris to win this race. Now, ask yourself why we were where we were. Because for too long, our policy has been wrong on a number of critical issues. And it's been wrong because of the role of special interests in our politics. The same exact special interests who get their way when it comes to our tax system, the same exact special interests that have us fighting stupid wars we shouldn't be fighting, the same special interests who are funding my opponent. We just celebrated our 250th anniversary. I know what my life would have been without the opportunity to be born here. I saw that firsthand in summers in Egypt. I know what America can do for somebody. I also knew that 15 miles away, there were kids who never got that same opportunity. We have to build an America that can be what it was for me for all of her kids. And that means we've got to take on the ways that corporate greed have gotten in the way. We need to stand with working people, stand with unions. We need to take on oligopolies and billionaires. We need to guarantee health care through Medicare for all. Across my time touring this state, town hall after town hall, you could be in a church in Detroit, you can be in a living room in Lansing, a VFW hall in Escanaba. People say the same things. It just shouldn't be this hard. Shouldn't be this hard to afford your groceries. Shouldn't be this hard to pay your rent. Shouldn't be this hard to see a doctor in the richest, most powerful country in the world. And that means we've got to build a movement of people to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all. I hope that you'll join us in building that movement. It's the many versus the money.
And that's why El-Sayed is a nightmare for the establishment, ladies and gentlemen. He's a relentless, well-off, and well-spoken anti-war and corruption candidate with a spotless past. That means no money and no blackmail operation is able to stop him from taking him down. And considering that he's a born American, unlike Mamdani, that means he can run for presidency later on in his career. That is a pure nightmare fuel for both sides of the establishment, and a golden chance for us to actually change our country for the better. If you're anti-war and anti-establishment, please help us spread the message by subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to like the video, and see you in the next one.